It's not appropriate for me to start this off with a peace greeting, and I'm going to avoid that this time. But Ungawa Johnson was on that BS again. A lot of you in my audience are a little bit younger than I am. Not all of you, but many of you are. And BGS has been in these pro-black circles. I forgot how long he said, but I've been pro-black, not necessarily in every pro-black circle there is, though, for about 30 years. But now it's more than that. It's almost 35, actually. Almost 35 years. What I've come to understand is that, of course, being on the West Coast where BGS was, and being on the East Coast where others were, you had access to a more diverse array of people that counted themselves as pro-black, be they 5%ers or Nuwabians or the new Chemetics or, take your pick. And they've been all over the place. And I'm just going to be honest, a lot of them wound up being lost. It has devolved into pretty much being, to being pro-black woman and not pro-black. An FD signifier stated that. He openly said, do I simp for black women? Yeah, I like them and I don't like you N-words. He said it. So he's against us. He's still fighting the gender war and he's fighting for their side, as if we black men are just boogeymen. And of course, his side is a side that says that the color purple is right, and they just didn't go hard enough, and that's all that was wrong. And Dr. Ungawa Johnson did a good job of covering that. Ungawa Johnson actively tries to tell black people that the solution is not what it actually is. He tries to tell us that what I know is the solution is, in fact, the political tool of the Arab to control the mind of the Negro. I'm telling you this, while the European, and I mean the Western European, may be obsessed enough with controlling the minds of all non-white people, the Arab is not concerned enough or obsessed enough with controlling the mind of black folks. They're not obsessed enough to try to brainwash us. To be honest with you, their thinking is simply not that sophisticated collectively. If you really want to see an Arab do analytical thinking of any sort, you isolate him from the rest of his people. Collectively, they will not think analytically about many things, especially things like this. Can they? Yes, absolutely they can. But they hold each other back intellectually, the way that the stereotypical N-word of North America holds each other back intellectually. They do too. They don't have to be Bedouin to do it. I have seen this with my own eyes for 9 years, almost 10 now. 9 years and 11 months. I've been seeing this play out. Ungawa Johnson is telling you black men to keep it black, but he doesn't really mean keep it black in the right context. You see, he and I agree in giving the continental sisters a chance and giving the Afro-Latinas a chance. We agree on this. The issue is that he thinks you should include the Western black woman, and he doesn't want to admit that the Western black woman has not only been betraying you from the time that there have been Western black folks. I'm talking about the Anglophone black woman of the Americas. But he also does not want to admit to you that the history of selling out black men is traceable back to West Africa and Southwest Africa. That we have had at least 2 circles of influence in our ancestral homelands, in which the women were hybristomaniac and hyper macho, not masculine, just macho. They were on that violent buck nigger bullshit. Queen Nzinga was one of them. When she became queen, she decided that I guess she wanted to take a stab at manhood by having her male concubines dress up like women, and she called them male wives. And when she wanted somebody to slam her to the back, she didn't just pick one and say, listen, come hit this. No, she would put two of them in duels to the death, and she would sleep with the one that survived, killing the other one. Imagine you just killed someone because your wife and queen told you that y'all had to fight to the death. You don't have nothing against this dude. You done lived with him, worked with him before. But now she done pit you in a battle against him to the death. And if you refuse to fight, you die. Because if he doesn't kill you, she'll kill you both. So you injured. And in your injuries, she still says, you better perform or I'll kill you anyway. Or you're not the one that survives and wins. You die in the fight. And the last thing you hear as your vision is going away from you and your consciousness is fading out is her laughing at you for not winning, even though she put you in that fight. Because she was a hybristomaniac bitch. Ain't no other way to say it. Ungawa would say, how you gonna talk about the ancestor? She was the queen of an empire and they fought the Portuguese. Man, that's not exactly what some folks have told me that are from that region. There were times she fought, but there was a time she was willing to sell. She wasn't the only one. There were males that were willing to do the same thing as well. But the point is, she was willing to pretty much do her own men in. She emasculated her concubines as male wives and then turned around and made them fight with each other. Because after she emasculated them, she still wanted to have some kind of masculinity to lay down with her, but she emasculated them. So in order for them to get some back, they got to kill each other. For her to feel satisfied, even though she's already horny. I mean, can you imagine that? That's her. We already know about the Dahomey Amazon warriors, after whom the Dora Milaje were modeled in the Black Panther fiction. What kind of androgynous mess is this? Ungawa Johnson is not willing to, look, he done studied, he's heard about this. He ain't willing to tackle this stuff because he's not willing to tell you what the truth is. And that is that in the West, there ain't enough black women to go around. Oh, they may be in number, but in quality, they're not. You are not insufficient for the Western black woman. She as a whole collectively is insufficient for you. How do you know? Look at the lionesses and how they have to be in hiding. Are they there? Obviously, they must exist. But how few or many of them matter, how few or any of them do exist does not matter. They must go in hiding. Crimson Cure has talked about this, and we know she's right because look how they talk about Simone Biles. Simone Biles is consistent. She's going after what she wants in life. She wanted to win the gold. She went after it. She wanted to be an Olympian. She went after it. She wanted that white Brazilian guy. She went after him. Now she wanted Jonathan Owens and went after him. At least she was consistent. And Ungawa Johnson has not gotten up to stand up to the hyenas that are going after her. Ungawa Johnson, when are you going to say something in defense of Simone Biles? She did what you said to do, and you ain't said nothing to protect her. Doing so means you'd have to stand up against the majority, and that means that you are aware, as Simone Biles is aware, that the hyenas run the show. Crimson Cure is right. The hyenas may outnumber the lionesses, or they outvoice them. It doesn't matter. The lionesses must be in hiding. And what is the religion of the hyenas? Don't love black men. Do not validate black men. Do not treat a black man like you love him. I'm telling you now, if the black American women saw how my wife treats me and how she loves me, they would say that I'm good for loving her the way I do. And I love that black woman. God bless her. And I say that black woman because she's original black from the continent. A lot of sisters wouldn't like that. Now, if she was mean and unattractive and treated me badly, oh, they would love it. Oh, she a real sister. She one of us. But because she spoils me, at least when I'm there in the same city with her, she spoils me and loves me, and I love her back. They wouldn't even say, well, this is a respectable marriage. They would say, you pick me, B word. Ungawa Johnson, my wife is one of those black women you don't defend. You may not hate her, but she's one you don't defend. Because you didn't say anything about Simone Biles. In her defense, if you did, I didn't hear about it. And now, if anybody finds or they hear where he defended Simone Biles from the hypocrisy, correct me, please. I don't mind. Send me the link. I will stand corrected. But right now, I ain't heard it. I heard him saying that Vanessa Bryant needs to spend her money with the black community. I'm not against that, but here's the thing. If she spends it with actually, I tell you why I'm against that in America. She spends it with the black community in America. The sisters are going to claim it first because, that's black people. That's our money because she took our man. Like we're their property. Then what are they going to do with that money? See, we got this money here. We don't need no man because we got our own money. There ain't no men on our level because we got this money. Then they're going to spend that money on a zaddy. Now, I don't think that sisters in general like the idea of having to actually work for money and then spend it on a man, even if that man is a zaddy. To a certain extent, I don't think they like that. But if they're going to work for money and then spend it, it's going to be on a zaddy. So zaddy's going to have that money all over again. So a black man's hard-earned money left to his Latina wife and widow is now going to wind up through proxy right back in the hands of zaddy who printed the money in the first place. That's what Ungawa Johnson's plan will do, even if he did not intend for that to be the case. Ungawa Johnson knows what he is not telling you. He's not willing to admit that the pro-black community and circles have degenerated. In the absence of the elders, and sometimes even in their presence, they have degenerated into being pro-whack and pro-simp. N-word polite sat up and said, I worship the black woman. The black woman is my God. But he also said that even if Malachi York had buggered thousands of kids, he'd still follow him. Apparently that's his God. At what point does the BS stop? It doesn't. See, if everybody can be your brother and your sister because of a DNA sequence, no matter what the hell they do, then you don't really have anything to stand on. You can be against the mistreatment of black people and for the equal and fair treatment of black people. You can even be for reparations, and you don't sit up and say that everybody black is your brother and sister just because they black. You have to accept that you have some traitors. And the pro-black community has been infiltrated for a long time. COINTELPRO is still in effect, and it's working. This may be in just the monitoring stage at this point, but it's working. Maybe it's on autopilot, but it's working. Even if it's officially not in operation, it's working because the success is still there. Nowadays, they don't have to infiltrate the movements and turn them against each other. No, because nowadays people will get up and start foolishness on their own. A new Negro identity. Runoko Rashidi never sat up and said that black folks don't come from Africa, and people were turning around and taking all of his Asian black presence and trying to say, yeah, see, that's us. Yeah, see, that's us. As soon as you point to some Central Africans, man, that ain't us. We don't come from there. Wait, what? I know a guy like that. No, we was in America first. Really? Okay. He got over here. He found that there was a family named Ubaili. Sounds Irish, but it's actually Arabic. He got a DNA test done, and he found that he was somehow related to some of the Ubailis specifically. And he tried to reach out to them. And he was fine with that. But, he got a DNA test done. He didn't believe the part that said he was from Africa. Picking and choosing. And Ungawa Johnson does not want to sit up and tell you that the movement has degenerated into these little mini movements that don't make no more cuss word sense anymore. Being pro-black now, authentically pro-black at this point, is the black manosphere. It is SYSBM. It is IBMOR. It is Passport Bros. That's authentically pro-black at this point. Ungawa Johnson does not want you to understand that there are parts of Asia where you can find wives that will be more loyal to you than women from the diaspora, than women from some parts of the continent, because the continent's wide, it's very diverse, but the major urban centers of the continent are being infiltrated with this stuff. Luanda, Angola, I know is lost. Johannesburg, I know is lost. And if it's lost, so too is Pretoria, and probably Durban too. And don't get me started on Cape Town. Nairobi is either lost or getting there. If Joamita is any indication, Kampala's lost. You got home paternity tests being sold now in Ghana. I didn't learn this from our Telegram group. I learned this from a black Muslim group on WhatsApp to which I belong. One of them said, you got home paternity test kits being sold in Ghana. And he asked the men why that was the case. And they said, because the women are promiscuous now. They're nice, but they're promiscuous. Now, we already know what the deal is in Nigeria. So we're dealing with a situation in which our entire heritage in the New World is defined not only by what Massa done did to us, but by the treachery of the sisters coming from specifically two parts of which we know. One centering in Dahomey, but not limited to it. The other one on the coast of what's now the Congo and Angola. Two different parts of Africa where the languages are not even closely related to each other. I know from the history that I studied. And yet and still, what do those two parts have in common? They sold out their own men. And that influence is what wound up winning out in North America. Different cultural groups represented amongst us in North America, but when it came to the women, that cultural element wound up winning out and becoming the majority and prevailing. Now, to a certain extent, it's been around in the diaspora. Don't sleep on it. The Mali Revolt of 1835 in Salvador de Bahia, Brazil, you look into that. That's what it was called. Was started by Muslims, actually, and then others joined in. Now, in the planning stages, two free black women noticed men gathering and meeting, and then they ran and told some zaddies what they suspected. And so the men, the brothers, had to move up the date of their revolt, and they still managed to do some serious damage, although they did not survive. But they didn't win and succeed. They still did a lot of damage, and it was irreversible. And the Portuguese had to go ahead and let some of them go back into Africa, and they settled in Lagos. Oh, yeah. It's like that. They sold out, and that's not even the United States. But that whole hating black men culture has not really, as far as I know, that has not infected Black Brazil. Didn't prevail there. Ungawa Johnson does not want you to look at Daughters of the Trade. I'm kind of skeptical, at least I was when I found out who wrote it, but she got her evidence from historical and government documents kept by the governments of these independent African nations now. She didn't make it up. If somebody made it up, it wasn't her. And Ungawa Johnson is not wrong because he wants to treat black women fairly and he doesn't want them to be oppressed and further traumatized. He's wrong because he's hiding from you the fact that they will oppress and traumatize you and that they've done it. It is the other Johnson that has been very helpful, T. Hassan Johnson, Dr. Tiger Hassan Johnson. I pray that he comes back to the solution that Ungawa Johnson has said is nothing more than a political tool of the Arab, who was really not collectively sophisticated enough to make it a political tool. Individually, some could have done it, but this would have been something they would have had to do collectively. And like I said, they don't do that. I've been teaching them for 9 years. And if it was a political tool, then it would have been abandoned a long time ago on the continent. And it wasn't. That's another talk for another day, but I wanted to state this. Ungawa Johnson at this point is leaving stuff out. I mean, he's repeating certain Kevin Samuels talking points, but he's still not going far enough. He is leaving things out intentionally. You see, at this point, he's experienced and seasoned enough to understand that a better location for his school would be on the west coast of Africa. It would cost less. It would create jobs on the continent. Yeah, people might have to take their kids across the ocean, but you know what? Eventually, when they start traveling at certain times of the year in larger numbers to do it, it would make the airfare more affordable, probably. I mean, at some point, he's just not telling you all of this. These are things he's got to know, and he ain't telling you. Now, maybe he didn't think about that at first, but at this point, after all these years of talking about the school and taking up donations, and then granted, I know Black America's not going to pitch in everything to make the school start off strong like it needs to, but if he realizes this from trying to get the donations all this time, why didn't he start off? Why didn't he shift the goal and the focus? Oprah started her school in South Africa. Granted, she had the money on her own, but she started in South Africa. Why doesn't he look to do something counter to her little propaganda in West Africa? Why not? They speak English in certain countries there. Yeah, he's leaving out a lot. Ungawa Johnson, you know mother cuss word well that we can't limit ourselves to the Western Black woman and not even every part of the continent, because neither one of your children's mothers were willing to behave enough to where you could commit to them. You'd have done so if you could. You didn't because you couldn't, because they wouldn't allow it. And you knew it. And it is a job of us as men to not only look out for our daughters' interests, but also to factor in the fair interest and concerns of our future sons-in-law through our daughters. Start doing that, Brother Johnson. Thank you all for listening, and as always, Black Heart, Black Mind, Black Out. Assalamu alaikum and Black heterosexual non-select male power, because they don't like it. And Black patriarchy until extinction of Judgment Day. When the plane docks at the gate, this time I will ask you as you exit the jet black aircraft to both punch the Cash App button and punch in numbers that are easy, of course, and to click the link for the merchandise to support one of our SYSBM brothers, with whom I will finally get a chance shortly to find out if any has been purchased. And if so, we want to give shouts out and credit to those who have made the orders. Thank you for flying again on Jet Black Airways, where jet black is also a verb. Keep jetting black with us until the wings and the wheels fall off. Gender justice forever.